Hello everyone, it's Annie, and today I am here to talk about my TBR and some recommendations for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge of 2022. So this is going to be my first year doing the Pop Sugar Challenge. If you saw my reading goals for 2022 video, you saw that I was kind of tossing up a couple of challenges to do. So along with Book Riot's Read Harder Challenge, I am committing to doing the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. And I'm very excited for this. I have a lot of books to recommend, so let's go. The first challenge is to read a book published in 2022, which, I mean, there are so many books that I can choose from. You can see my anticipated reads of 2022 video to check out some of my most anticipated reads, but the one I'm going to mention here today is Magic Steeped in Poison because I already pre-ordered it. This is about a girl who accidentally poisoned her mother or something like that, and she goes to this tea competition to win some sort of prize that will help her out. I don't know, it sounds awesome. It is a fantasy and it's beautiful and I can't wait to read it. And then the next prompt is read a book set on a plane, train, or cruise ship. So the one that I'm planning on reading is Come Fly the World, which is a nonfiction book about the history of Pan Am, which was an airline in America that has since gone out of business. And my mom read this and said it was good, and I'm really interested in it. The next prompt is interesting. It is to read a book set in a non-patriarchal society. Now, the Pop Sugar website recommends The Mercies, which is on my TBR, so I might be picking this. The premise sounds really interesting. It says, after a storm has killed off all the island's men, two women in a 1600s Norwegian coastal village struggle to survive against both natural forces and the men who have been sent to rid the community of alleged witchcraft. You guys know that I really love books to do with witches, and this also has tags that say that it is LGBT. Ooh, if this is sapphic, I'm definitely reading it. Another book that I was thinking could fit for this is Island of the Sea Women by Lisa See. This is another Korean historical fiction set during the period of Japanese occupation, so right up my alley. And it is about the women Haenyeo divers on the island of Jeju. I absolutely love that period of history, you know that, so I am definitely interested in reading this book. It's just a matter of which one I pick up first. The next prompt is something I'm very excited about. It is to read a book with a tiger on the cover or in the title. So I am definitely going to be reading Tiger Honor, which is the sequel to Dragon Pearl, which is an amazing kind of middle grade YA. It kind of straddles the line sci-fi based on Korean mythology. It is an amazing, amazing book and you all should read it. But this is the sequel coming and I'm so excited for it. But then there's also The Night Tiger by Yang Si-chu. Sounds interesting. It is a sweeping historical novel about a dance hall girl and an orphan boy whose fates entangle over an old Chinese superstition about men who turn into tigers. Interesting. I mean, I've heard really great things about The Night Tiger. It has been on my TBR for a while, so this might be a good chance to pick it up. And then probably my favorite prompt of this whole challenge is just to read a sapphic book. So I have quite a lot of those on my TBR. So I'm just going to mention some of the really big ones that I definitely want to get to. There's The Unbroken, which was a release this year that I never got to. And there's also Jasmine Throne, which is another one of the big releases this year. It is an Indian-inspired epic sapphic fantasy, and it just sounds so amazing. There's also this book coming out called The Final Strife. Let me tell you what it's about because when I read it, I was like, what? Okay, this is the first book of a visionary African and Arabian-inspired adult fantasy trilogy. 3 women band together against a cruel empire that divides people of blood. Red is the blood of the elite, of magic, of control. Blue is the blood of the poor, of workers, of the resistance. Clear is the blood of the servants, of the crushed, of the invisible. Scylla dreams of days growing up in the resistance, being told she would spark a revolution that would free the empire from the red-blooded ruling class's tyranny. That spark was extinguished the day she watched her family murdered before her eyes. Honora has been told she's nothing, no one, a disappointment by the only person who matters, her mother, the most powerful ruler in the empire. Hassa moves through the world unseen by upper classes, so she knows what it means to be invisible. But invisibility has its uses. It can hide the most dangerous of secrets that can reignite a revolution. I mean, that sounds really interesting. Who doesn't want to read something like this? Come on. The next prompt is to read a book by a Latinx author who I think I'm going to probably read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I really want to read this, and I really liked Clap When You Land, and I really want to read another one of her works. This is about, I believe, a teen mom who discovers her love of cooking. Sounds awesome. But there's another option here. Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. She is a highly acclaimed award-winning author from Uruguay. So this is about the 1977 Uruguay dictatorship military government. In this environment where the everyday rights of people are under attack, homosexuality is a dangerous transgression to be punished. And yet, Romina, Flaca, Anita, Paz, and Milena, 5 cantoras, women who sing, somehow miraculously find each other. Together they discover an isolated, nearly uninhabited cape, which they claim as their secret sanctuary. This sounds amazing, and I've heard such good things about it. And then we have the prompt onomatopoeia in the title, which was one of the most difficult things for me to try and find. But I chose Ring Shout, which is by P. Djeli Clark, and is it's a novella, so it's really short, and it kind of has something to do with the KKK. I'm not entirely actually sure what the plot is, but I mean, everyone who has read it has loved it. And then there is The Murmur of Bees, and I have heard really great things about this. I do like books about bees, so I am kind of unsure about this, but I know that shout and murmur don't really count as onomatopoeia. So if you guys have any recommendations for this prompt, please let me know down below and help me out. And then we have another difficult one. This is the one where the protagonist uses a mobility aid. Now, I have a really great recommendation for this, which is Iron Widow. The protagonist of this, Zetian, uses a wheelchair and canes because she has her feet bound and she cannot really walk properly, and it is an amazing young adult sci-fi book inspired by Pacific Rim and Chinese history, so you really need to read it if you haven't already. But I've already read this, so I have heard that Six of Crows protagonist uses a mobility aid. It is on my TBR. I know it's very popular, but I kind of feel very hesitant to read Six of Crows because I feel like I'm not of the right age to read it without any nostalgia factor for it, you know what I mean? So if you have any other recommendations for a book whose protagonist uses a mobility aid that you think I would like, please help me out and let me know. The next prompt is to read a book with the found family trope, and I got this The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet a few months ago, and I had planned to read it for Sci-Fi September, but I never got around to it. I love Becky Chambers. She is just a master at sci-fi and crafting amazing characters. And I know that this is found family. It has to do with like a ragtag group of people who get on this spaceship and are basically tasked with finding a wormhole, I believe. I can also read Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor, who is one of my all-time favorite authors. I don't actually know much about it. I know that it has to do with witches. That's all I know about it. But I've heard that it's found family, and why wouldn't I read this? And then the next prompt is to read an Anisfield Wolf Book Award winner. And I looked at the list, and There is on the list, so I'm going to read that. This is about 12 characters from Native communities, all traveling to the big Oakland powwow, all connected to one another in ways they may not yet realize. Interesting. I didn't realize it followed quite so many point of views, but I am sure this book is going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to read it. And then the next prompt is to read a book talk recommendation. One of them could be The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which actually will fit for a lot of prompts on this challenge, and which you'll see later. So, I mean, I'm kind of planning on reading this anyway next year, just because at this point I kind of have to. I do know that it is sapphic somehow, and I know that everyone like raves about this book and loves it. There's also Atlas 6, which I know is getting picked up by Tor. It was originally self-published. I know it's queer. I know it is dark academia, and it has to do with these people who kind of protect knowledge that has been saved from the Library of Alexandria, I think. It sounds amazing. Book Talk raves about it, so that would be perfect for this prompt. The next prompt is to do with the afterlife, and I have the most perfect book ever for this. I'm so excited to read The Infinity Courts by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This is another YA sci-fi, and it just sounds so amazing. This is described as Westworld meets Warcross in a high-stakes, dizzyingly smart sci-fi about a teen girl navigating an afterlife in which she must defeat an AI entity intent on destroying humanity. Yes. The next prompt is to read a book set in the 1980s, so I am probably going to pick My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This will be my first Grady Hendrix that I read. I don't really know much about the plot, except that it's about someone's exorcism, and I really like the movie The Exorcist, so that's basically my reasoning for choosing this book. And then the next prompt is to read a book with cutlery on the cover or in the title. I have down here How to Pronounce Knife, which is a collection of short stories. The author was born in a Lao refugee camp in Thailand and was raised in Toronto. And these stories are supposedly focusing on characters struggling to make a living and illuminating their hopes, disappointments, and pursuit of a place to belong. I have heard really great things about this book, but there's also the thriller In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which is, I think, about a woman going to a high school reunion and kind of getting flashbacks to something that happened that might have involved killing a classmate. I've heard really great things about it. Everyone loves it. People are calling it the best thriller of 2021, so I am very interested in reading that as well. Next, we are prompted to read a book by a Pacific Islander author, and I am so excited to read Sharks in the Time of Saviors. In 1995 Hawaii, on a rare family vacation, 7-year-old Nainoa falls overboard a cruise ship into the Pacific Ocean. When sharks appear in the water, everyone fears for the worst, but instead, Noah is gingerly delivered to his mother in the jaws of a shark, marking his story as the stuff of legends. His family, struggling amidst the collapse of the sugarcane industry, hails his rescue as a sign of favor from ancient Hawaiian gods. But as time passes, this supposed divine favor begins to drive the family apart. It just sounds so good, and I can't wait to read it. The next prompt is to read a book about witches, which there are so many books I can choose, but I already mentioned Akata Witch, so I'm probably going to read that for this prompt. The next prompt is to read a book becoming a TV series or movie in 2022. So I had a little bit of a hard time with this, but I found the book Bullet Train, which is, I think, becoming a movie. It is a translated Japanese book, and it follows the perilous train ride of 5 highly motivated assassins. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil myself by reading any of that synopsis, but it just sounds like really interesting. I think it's also supposed to be kind of satirical, so we're going to try and read that. The next prompt is to read a romance novel by a BIPOC author. You know that I don't really read a lot of romance, but I have been interested in Dustin Tao's You've Reached Sam, which is supposedly extremely sad. It's about this girl who calls her dead boyfriend's number, and instead of getting his voicemail, he actually answers. It is a romance. The author is Vietnamese, so it fits. And then we have a prompt that asks me to read a book that takes place during my favorite season. So I have a lot of options for this, but I am still hoping to read Little Women, which takes place mostly during Christmas. Winter is my favorite season, so I really want to read this classic. I tried to read it last year and I just never did. So the next is a book about a band or a musical group. I know a lot of people will recommend Daisy Jones and the Six. books for this, but I have not read that, and honestly it just doesn't call to me. So my plan is to read The Seven Husbands first before I continue with any of Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books. So instead, I'm going to read If This Gets Out, which all I know is that it is about a boy band who I think 2 of the members are gay and in love, and like they're worried if it gets out, then their careers are gonna be like ruined. It sounds really interesting. I've heard it's really good. This cover is very cute, and it just came out, so I'm interested in checking that out. We have another amazing prompt, which is to read a book with a character on the ace spectrum. I was recently gifted Loveless by the lovely Angelina Reeds. Thank you so much, because I cannot wait to read this. Everyone knows this book by now, I'm pretty sure. It's about a girl moving on from high school to college, and she is kind of a romantic, like she reads fan fiction and stuff, but she realizes like maybe she doesn't want that. I am really excited to read this. This is like just an amazing thing to see an ace protagonist like this. And then we have a book with a recipe in it. So I'm gonna put With the Fire on High because I'm assuming since it's about cooking, it's going to have recipes in it. And then we have a book I can read in one sitting. So I read a lot of novellas, but one that I'm very, very excited about is Prayer for the Crown Shy, which is by Becky Chambers, and it is the sequel to her book Psalm for the Wild-Built, which is the start of a new novella series about a non-binary monk who basically travels the world with their tea shop cart, and they sell tea to people and talk to them and try and help them with their problems. I love it. It was so cute and so feel good and just one of my favorite books of this year. So I'm so excited for the sequel. The next prompt is to read a book about a secret. Apparently The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo can fit for this. Obviously I haven't read it, so I don't know why. I also heard that Jane Eyre can read for this, and if you watched my reading goals of 2022 video, you know that I really want to read Jane Eyre, so it's gonna be one of those two. And then for another prompt that The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo can fit for, it is a book with a misleading title. I don't know why. I don't know how many husbands she has or doesn't have. I don't know anything about it. So we're gonna see. But also there is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, which is a very popular contemporary. I don't know anything about this either. I think it's about a young woman who is kind of struggling with her mental health. If she was completely fine, there wouldn't be a story, so I'm guessing this is a misleading title. The next prompt is to read a Hugo Award winner. And I have this, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Yeah, it says it right there, Hugo Award winner of 2016. This is an amazing fantasy. Well, I haven't read it yet, but everyone says it's amazing, and I'm planning on doing a vlog where I read this whole trilogy in one go, so look forward to that. But I'm so excited to read this. It is about a planet of people who some people have like a special organ in their brains that allows them to basically be earthbenders and like control the earth. It just sounds so cool. N.K. Jemisin is a genius. I mean, I have to read this. I have no choice. Then the next prompt is to read a book set during a holiday, which I am telling you right now, I hate Christmas romance books. I mean, I already don't like romance books, but I really hate Christmas romance books. So I'm probably gonna apply Little Women to this as well. The next prompt is fun. It's to read a different book by an author you read in 2021. Obviously, I could read Becky Chambers' Long Way to a Small Angry Planet for that. I could also apply Prayer for the Crown Shy to that as well. You know, I have a lot of options for that. The next one is pretty fun and also really difficult, I think. So it is to read a book with the name of a board game in the title. I am using Life. So I'm going to read My Brilliant Life by Aedon Kim. This is about an impoverished boy living in a poor neighborhood in Korea with his parents. And I bought this and it's so short and I haven't gotten to it yet and I'm very disappointed in myself, but I can't wait to read it. And because I am hosting a translated literature book club next year, maybe this will be one of the picks. We'll see. The next prompt is to read a book featuring a man-made disaster. One of my recommendations that I've already read is Midnight in Chernobyl, which is obviously about the Chernobyl disaster. You can also read Blackbird Girls, which is a fictionalized version of the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster, and it's a middle grade historical fiction, one of my favorites. It's so good. But I've read those already, so what I'm going to be reading is Red Famine, which is about the famine in Ukraine that Stalin caused, basically on purpose. And I don't really know much about Ukraine and its history, but I am extremely interested in Soviet history in general, so I know that I'm going to really enjoy this book. Next prompt is to read a book where one of my favorite authors basically blurbed it, and that is going to be Embassy Town. If this is a sci-fi book, I have heard that it deals with language in really, really interesting ways. I don't know much about the plot because I don't want to spoil myself, but this has been on my TBR for so long, and I found while searching for a book for this prompt that it was blurbed by Ursula K. Le Guin, who is one of my favorite authors, so I would just love to get to this book next year. The next prompt is to read a social horror book. I don't know what that means exactly, but I've seen some other people talk about Ring Shout, so since I'm already tossing that up as being applied to another prompt, I'm probably going to read that. You know, it deals with racism, so I'm pretty sure that counts as social horror, but we'll see. And then we have pretty easy prompt to read a book written about the Victorian times, and I'm going to read either Jane Eyre or Wuthering Heights. I'm planning on reading both of those next year, so I'll apply either of them. And then we have one that was a little bit difficult. It says a constellation featured on the cover or in the title. First is Written in the Stars, which is a sapphic book, which is interesting. However, it doesn't have the best reviews. I know it is just a romance. It's like a contemporary romance, and I usually like things to have a little bit more fantasy or sci-fi elements in there, so we'll see if I read that. I have two others. First is Dogstar, which I talked about in my most anticipated releases video, but it has stars on the cover. I don't think those stars make an actual constellation, but it sounds so good. It's another Soviet history middle grade book. It just sounds really good, and I really want to read it, but I don't know if it will count. And then we also have The Wolf Den. I actually have an arc for this. I think it's going to be great. It is about a girl named Amara who was sold by her mother and enslaved in Pompeii's brothel. And I'm assuming it's going to deal with the Pompeii volcano disaster. I'm not sure. I really want to read this, whether it counts for this prompt or not. So the next prompt is a book you know nothing about, which it can be anything, so I'm not going to talk about that. The next is a book about gender identity, which I am very excited about. I am going to be reading Light from Uncommon Stars. This is a novel with, I believe, a trans protagonist, and it is a sci-fi novel. And look at this beautiful cover. One of my friends read this and loved it, so I'm really excited to read it. It is a joyful adventure set in California's San Gabriel Valley with cursed violins, Faustian bargains, and queer alien courtship over fresh-made donuts. It just sounds so joyful and amazing and exactly what I need. I need a comforting sci-fi. The next book is to read a book that features a party. I heard that Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier features a party. I am really not sure. Of course, you can read The Great Gatsby or The Chosen and the Beautiful. I do highly recommend that book. I am really not sure. If you know a good book that I would like that features a party and you think it suits my taste, please tell me, because I'm a little bit lost with this prompt. And then we have a great prompt, which is to read an Own Voices sci-fi fantasy book. There's a lot of books that can fit for this. One of them that I definitely want to read is Crown Chaser, which I love, and it is Own Voices LGBT. This is a YA sci-fi, and I was actually gifted this book. I am doing a book haul, but look at this, Find New Stars, signed in. It's so nice. I'm so excited to read this. Alyssa Farshad has spent her whole life trying to outrun her family legacy. Her mother sacrificed everything to bring peace to the galaxy, and her uncle successfully ruled his empire for decades. The last thing Alyssa wants is to follow in their footsteps as the next in line for the throne. Ooh, she wants to explore planets in her own ship instead. Ooh, interesting. It just sounds so good. And I can't wait to read this. I really hope I like them, but I think I will because it just sounds right up my alley. The last of the general prompts is to read a book from another Pop Sugar Reading Challenge prompt. So one of their prompts from a previous year was to read an Afrofuturism book. So I am thinking of either reading Riot Baby, which they actually recommended, or reading An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon, because I really want to give River Solomon another chance. I read Sorrowland, I think it's called, and it was like just okay for me, but I think because this is a sci-fi novel, I would like this a lot more. So I always really like reading Afrofuturism, and I definitely want to explore it more. So those are those two choices for that. So now we have a few prompts that are called the advanced prompts, and they're like really specific and really difficult. But I'm going to try them. The first of these advanced prompts is to read a book with a reflected image or mirror on the cover or title. So I'm going to read a translated Japanese book called Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and I guess this could also fit the prompt to read a book that you don't know anything about, because I don't know anything about it. Another prompt is to read a book that features 2 languages, which I am assuming with Fire on High will count for that. I mean, I'm going to be reading a lot of translated books this year because of my new book club, so I'm assuming a lot of those will feature 2 languages. The next prompt was extremely hard, and I didn't even really do it right. I cheated a little bit. It is to read a book with a palindromic title. So half of my title is palindromic. It is to read Anna Karenina. So Anna is a palindrome. Karenina is not, but I don't care. But Anna Karenina has been on my list for a very long time. I know I'm kind of mentioning a lot of really long classics, so we'll see if I actually get to this, but I would love to be able to get to it. Like, the next 2 prompts are to read a duology, book 1 and book 2. They're 2 prompts. So I can read A Magic Steeped in Poison and its sequel that's also coming out in 2022, which is called A Venom Dark and Sweet. But I'm not sure if I will do that, because what if I don't like A Magic Steeped in Poison? I don't know. So Crown Chaser and its second book, Thronebreakers, will definitely fit for this as well. The next prompt is about someone leading a double life, which I painstakingly searched, and I think The Humans by Matt Haig will fit for this, and will also fit my sci-fi tastes, because it's about an alien kind of infiltrating Earth and its musings on humans and how weird we are. I just think that's such a cute idea. I really liked Matt Haig's writing in The Midnight Library, so I'm hoping I'll like this as well. I heard really good things about it. And then we have a book featuring a parallel reality, which I have 2. I can read One Last Stop, we all know that, and The Space Between Worlds. Both are sapphic. Space Between Worlds is about a girl whose job is to go to parallel realities. One Last Stop is about a girl who meets a girl on a train who's stuck in a time loop from the 70s, I believe, and she has to kind of help her, and they fall in love, and it's by Casey McQuiston, and everyone loves it. So I do really want to read that. And then we're in the last 3 prompts. We have a book with 2 point of views. I'm sure that one of the books I mentioned here have 2 point of views, but I know for a fact that The First Sister has 2 point of views, which is something that I need to get to next year. This is an amazing looking sci-fi novel about a prostitute who rebels, I think, in space. I do give a more thorough explanation of it in my haul where I hauled this, so just bear with me here. I am tired and I'm running out of time because the light is coming. The last 2 prompts go together. They're to read books set in twin or sister cities. So I am choosing New York City and Lagos, so I figured I could read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which is about the 5 boroughs of New York, basically personified. And it just sounds so creative and like something I would really love. And then we have Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. Again, another Nnedi Okorafor. This is about a massive object crashing into the ocean off the coast of Lagos. 3 people wandering along the beach, a marine biologist, a rapper, and a troubled soldier, finding themselves running a race against time to save the country they love and the world itself. Sounds really interesting. And that is it. I finished in time, almost, because the light is slowly encroaching on me. So I'm going to finish this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you liked this, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out, and let me know down below if you're also going to participate in the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye!